Okay, so your choices for artist research include the following artists. You can also add someone else if you have other ideas for who you'd like to research. And that will be up to whether or not you're able to find all of the things that you need to find for this artist. So essentially it needs to be someone that either has their own website with enough information on it, or someone that's in Britannica. But these are the choices that I've given you. Mary Cassatt is an American artist who is an impressionist. Henry Rousseau would be surrealist. Rene Magritte is also surrealist. Edgar Degas is impressionist. He does sculptures too. Marisat, she's impressionist. Hieronymus Bosch, I would consider surrealist, but he's from the Middle Ages, so all of his work is about things having to do with the Bible, because he didn't actually like working for the church, but he needed to eat, so he worked for them anyway. So he liked to make himself feel better by drawing the person that commissioned the work in the background being killed by one of the goblins that appears in the Bible story that he was illustrating. M.C. Escher, if you haven't seen him yet, you'll see him in math. He does a lot of different tessellations, optical illusions, and this one is an example of a self-portrait. Claude Monet is an impressionist painter. Winslow Homer does a lot of sports paintings. It's more abstract realism. Elizabeth Thompson, she does a lot of realistic kind of cowboy scenes. Amy Sherald, she did Michelle Obama's official portrait, and she does a lot of portraits of African Americans. This is sort of her style with the grayish skin, realistic but with the gray skin. Raphael is a Renaissance painter. Diego Rivera, he's a muralist and painter. He was married to Frida Kahlo, which we'll see in just a minute. He was an amazing painter, but a really terrible husband. This painting here that you're looking at, he actually did twice. The first time he was commissioned by one of the Rockefellers, the same family that owns Rockefeller Center in New York City, owned a lot of other things in New York City as well. He commissioned this mural for the inside of a new building that he was building, that every single person walking into the building would have seen this mural. Diego Rivera liked to incorporate things from real life into the paintings. So he incorporated, this is Vladimir Lenin here, who was the leader of the Communist Party. This mural was commissioned during the Red Scare when people were, if they were rumored to be even part of the Communist Party, they would lose their jobs. So Rockefeller said, you cannot leave him there. And Diego Rivera went back and forth saying that he was going to leave him there and there was nothing he could do about it. So Rockefeller finally paid Diego Rivera off and knocked the wall down, built a new wall in its place, put up some non-offensive artwork. Diego Rivera was very upset about this and went to Mexico City and painted the same thing. So there's Vladimir Lenin, and one of these guys hiding behind him is Rockefeller, standing in the painting. And there's nothing that Rockefeller could do about it. This is Kehinde Wiley. He actually painted Barack Obama's official portrait. He does these larger than life-size, sometimes paintings of people that he just kind of grabs off the street in their own clothes. So this guy would have walked in wearing this camouflage outfit, the Timberlands, the headband, the armbands, and then he poses them in the same way as a master's work from, a painting from the Renaissance. That's why he's on the horse and has this big yellow drape. So over here is Caravaggio. Caravaggio's work is very gruesome. It's got a lot of mythology subjects and also stuff from the Bible. This is by Elizabeth Peyton. She paints a lot of famous people and then also some of her friends. Realistic, but more on the abstract side again, kind of like Winslow Homer. These are both street artists. We have Lady Pink and then also Banksy. Banksy is pretty cool because We don't actually know who he is. We know he's a white guy from England, but that's about all they know for sure, because he's never been caught and he never appears on camera. He never gets interviewed, any of that. No one knows for sure who he is. And one of the reasons why is because he makes these intricate stencils in the safety of his studio or his home, and then he can go out and do a painting like this in under 10 minutes. These are both architects. Now, not every architect is an artist. If you think, when you look at a building, you think about the construction workers and you think they probably thought the architect was a little nuts, then that is a good indicator that the architect was an artist. So this building is actually located in Iowa City. It's down kind of across from Hampshire. This is by Frank Gehry. This building is in Serbia. This building goes from multi-story and then swoops down and becomes part of the pathway for people to walk on, and then swoops back up. These are people walking over the building here. This is Keith Haring. He started out as a street artist like Lady in Pink and Banksy. He actually came and did a mural with the students at Horn Elementary back in the 80s. This is Kara Walker. Now, if you research her, you need to know that her work is about some pretty heavy subjects, dealing with slavery and issues of power, things like that. So, for example, this silhouette, this could look like a sweet Victorian woman praying, but it's actually a slave probably begging for her life. So this, instead of being a regular hat, if you look at it sideways, is a mask. This is like the eyebrow area, nose, lips, and then the chin. And then these are feathers coming out of the top of the mask. You can see that she doesn't have any shoes on, and the bottom of her pants look pretty ragged. So that places her as more of a slave rather than someone with money. So if you research her work is amazing. She's contemporary. She's living right now. But it's dealing with those issues of power and slavery. These are both photographers. This is Alfred Stieglitz. He was married to George O'Keeffe, who you'll see in just a minute. And this is Margaret Burke White. There's a lot more to photography than just pulling a phone out of your pocket. This is Elizabeth Catlett. She's a printmaker and a sculptor. She was the first African American to graduate from the University of Iowa with an MFA, which is the highest degree you can get in an art form. And they just named a new dorm after her a couple of years ago, Catlett Hall. This is Louise Nevelson. She's an assemblage artist, which means she pulls things together and puts them together into build her sculpture. So this is actually a steering wheel from a car. This is Joan Miro. I would classify him as a surrealist and abstract. This is Louise Bourget. She does these huge spiders and other really cool sculptures as well. This is Faith Ringgold. She's an African-American artist who is currently still alive, as far as I know. She painted on quilts. You might have studied Tar Beach when you were in elementary school. And she also has these very animated paintings as well. This is Chuck Close. Now, he had two parts to his career. First, he started out photorealistic, which means that it looks so realistic it looks like a photograph. And then he was paralyzed from the neck down and started painting on this grid system. We'll see a video of him at work later this week. And this is Jacob Lawrence. He's an African-American artist working in the Harlem Renaissance, so the 30s and 40s in New York City. The thing about him that's pretty cool is that he was untrained, and you might look at this and think, well, of course, I can see that. But he's good at getting his point across. So this is the Olympic poster for Munich, and he's showing how hard these guys are working to get around that track as fast as they can. This is Kandinsky. He's very abstract. Some of his work, you can see things happening in it, but it's still very abstract. This is Frida Kahlo. She's a surrealist painter. And my favorite, she was married to Diego Rivera. This is Van Gogh. He's an impressionist painter. Dali, he's surrealist. Seurat. He is impressionist. You might have seen this painting before. It's in the Chicago Art Institute. It's about as large as the front of the room if you look from the screen to the door. And it's covered with multiple layers of dots about the size of my finger. And this is Michelangelo over here. This is the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Edward Hopper. Da Vinci. Da Vinci was also a great inventor too. He's a total genius. So if you research him, you're going to see a lot of stuff about his inventions as well. Grant Wood. There's a reason why Grant Wood Elementary is named after him. He used to teach at the University of Iowa. This is the most recognizable American painting in the world. It's called American Gothic because of this window back here. That's a Gothic window that's recycled out of churches in Europe. This is Andy Warhol. Frank Lloyd Wright. Again, when you look at a building, if you think the contractors building it would have thought that the architect was nuts, then he's an artist. He or she is an artist. This part of the building cantilevers, which means sticks out with no supports over the top of this waterfall. He did not want to put supports up there, which means this had to be fixed several times already. But he didn't want supports because he thought it would ruin the look, and he was right. This is Georgia O'Keeffe. Picasso, that you already learned about. Henri Matisse. Jackson Pollock. Romare Bearden. He's an African-American artist working in the Harlem Renaissance with Jacob Lawrence. Edvard Munch. And Claude Monet. Now you're going to go ahead and vote here using this code right here. And you're going to plug in the code that's correct for your class period to add my class to Google Classroom, all by the end of class.